Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Hope you all have a great day, and let's get into it as I will be reacting to Bucky Brooks' top 5 players at each position for the 2026 draft. The combine is over a week away, but it's only 10 days away, as you can see. So let's get into some of these prospects we are going to be seeing. Starting off with the quarterbacks, obviously Fernando Mendoza will be the top guy. He's the number one pick for a reason, and he's going to be number one as a quarterback because none of the rest of these guys are in comparison to Mendoza. So that's really self-explanatory. Number two is Ty Simpson, which is to be expected. Simpson, while had a rough end of the season, still played well enough to deserve to be maybe a first round pick. I mean, we saw Jackson Dart last year, and Simpson seems to be the clear cut number two guy. Like, unless one of these guys like dominates in the combine and they somehow overtake Simpson, which I don't think will happen. So these two guys are like kind of locked in at their spots, and then the rest of the QBs are kind of interesting to see. So for number three, he's got Carson Beck, which is interesting. Remember Beck a couple of years ago was seen as the top quarterback in the 2025 class. Didn't have as great of a year, was turnover prone, but also Georgia led the entire college football in drops, so it's kind of hard to have a lot of success as a quarterback when your receivers, tight ends, running backs are dropping the ball. But he had a really good year in Miami. Obviously, helped them make the national championship and played really well in that game. But I don't know Beck. I'd probably have Nussmeier ahead of Beck just because, I mean, well, Beck's actually older, even though it says they're both seniors, because Beck is a sixth year senior. Nussmeier is only in his fifth year or fourth year, maybe fifth year. But I would have Nussmeier over Beck just because, well, one, he's younger, and two, I feel like, well, he's not a first overall pick the way a lot of people hyped him up to be. He is still a really good prospect, and I feel like he gives you more upside than Carson Beck. Like Beck seems like a guy who, maybe in the right system would do well, but I feel like I would have those two guys swapped, in my opinion. And then Drew Aller at number five is an interesting one because him and Nussmeier were kind of seen as like these top guys in the 25, 26 class, I should say. Both guys actually probably might have been first round picks if they declared last year. Came back and had disappointing seasons, but Aller got injured and was out the rest of the year in Penn State's tumultuous season. But I don't think I've seen him be this high. So that is interesting to see Drew Aller this high when I feel like most people probably have him like maybe closer to like QB 10. But maybe with his tools, maybe with his potential, a team could see something in there and say, let's take this guy on day three to maybe develop him, and he could be maybe a backup, maybe a starter one day. Moving on to the running backs I mean, Jeremiah Love is the clear top guy, just like Fernando Mendoza. I mean, there's a much smaller gap between Mendoza and Simpson than there is Love and the rest of the class, but he is clear in a way the best running back in this class. He has been for a while. Like it's not like Ashton Genty last year where he kind of came out of nowhere and emerged as the top guy. Love was the top guy throughout the entire season. And yeah, but let's get into these other guys because there's not been much talked about the rest of these running backs because Um, well, because it's kind of been Love and then everybody else. But there is some good players that you can get on day two and day three. It's not last year's class where it was like so loaded of a class. But these guys are still can be productive guys. Emmett Johnson, a lot of people thought should have been the Heisman conversation for Nebraska. Um, a talented running back who, had the amazing season. He's not going to be a day one guy. Like, there's no Marion Hampton of this class where it's like, oh, maybe that guy could be a first round pick. But the rest of these guys are really talented. Jadarian Price, um, Love's teammate at Notre Dame, who obviously not as talented, but still really good and can give a team a reliable back. Jonah Coleman from Washington is an amazing player and had a great senior year at Washington. And then Nick Singleton, him and Katron Allen were like a lot of Penn State guys were supposed to be top prospects, but those guys, um, especially Singleton, couldn't have an amazing turnaround. And like you always see it with like top prospects entering the year where they don't have the greatest season but they still get picked very highly because they are these top players. They just didn't have the great seasons that you would have liked to say, oh, this guy's a legit first round pick. Moving on to the wide receivers with, hey, Jordan Tyson, which he's my top guy. A lot of people, have kind of pushed him down the board, rankings wise and draft position because of the injuries, but Tyson is the most talented guy. Was first at Colorado. Dion was like, "You're not good enough," and then he goes to Arizona State and makes Dion look like a fool. Um, but Tyson, amazing prospect, and really, like he can do it all. Like if you want a guy who can, do it all, be an elite route runner, an elite, after the catch, like he can do it all. And I agree with him having him at number one. He's my top guy, but a lot of people have these two guys behind him and Cardinal Tate and Makai Lemon. Tate obviously didn't have as much of the shine because he's playing with Jeremiah Smith, who will be a top five pick at least in next year's class. Um, but Tate is still a really talented player and just like Tyson can give you, all you want in a wide receiver. He's been a lot more healthier than Tyson, but Tate and Tyson both give you the size also, which is a concern with Makai Lemon, who he has at number three, just because Lemon 5'11", I'm pretty sure 195. He's listed on the smaller size. Like Tate is 6'3". I want to say Tyson's around that too. But let me kind of compares to like Amon Ra, JSN, these smaller receivers who still are really talented. And Lemon, I feel like could take that path of like being, mainly a slot guy in college to being an elite guy like JSN. Like I feel like he could end up being not as good as JSN, but can kind of take that path of like being a true team's number one receiver when it's all said and done. Um, wow, Zach Branch from Georgia and Chris Braswell, two guys who have like Branch has the explosive speed and he will, jump off the charts at the combine, could increase his stock. So I mean, Bucky Brooks has hit these two guys over both Denzel Boston and Casey Concepcion, who I think are better receivers, at least right now. Branch, um, didn't have the greatest season, was still really good. Braswell had an amazing year, but there's a lot of, you know, Tennessee bias when people talk about these receivers under Josh Heupel. We remember Jalen Hyatt, Cedric Tillman, um, where like Tennessee receivers aren't really considered to go very highly because the scheme, Dante Thornton from last year didn't go that high, but both these guys could end up being, you know, really high picks because, Branch's speed, Braswell, his talent is amazing. But it's interesting to see these two guys over Denzel Boston and Casey Concepcion, who I feel are like the fourth and fifth best guys right now. Moving on to the tight ends and another position where it's kind of like a top tier guy and then a bunch of other guys. Sadiq, um, amazing. Yeah, I mean his like he could go as high as probably number 9 to the Chiefs and as low as like 30 to the Broncos. Um, but he's kind of like a tier one above the rest of these guys who aren't bad. It's just they're not as great. But Sadiq is a talented guy. But let's talk about the rest of these guys who you might not know. Max Clare from Ohio State, another Ohio State guy. I don't really know much about honestly the rest of the guys. I didn't know Eli Stowers, who was kind of supposed to be the Kenny Sadiq of this draft, but didn't have that great of a year. We'll learn a lot more about these guys come the combine and come pro days as we get closer to the draft. So moving on to the tackle class, which, you know, isn't as great as a lot of people presumed it was going to be preseason, but still, I think we'll covet people, especially Maui Noah and Fano. I actually have them swapped. I have Maui Noah as my top tackle over Fano, but both guys are probably going to be top 10 picks at least, I would say. Um, you know, obviously didn't have as great of seasons as probably a lot of people would have hoped. Because a lot of people probably hoped this class was going to be, you know, like 2024 when you had like Alt, Latham, Fashanu, forget who else, Tyler Gain. There were so many tackles drafted in 2024. I think a lot of people hoped this class would be like that, and there still could be a lot of guys, but it's not going to be like it's not going to be throughout the first round. It's going to be like the top two guys, and then probably later into the 20s, maybe early teens. Caleb Lono and Fanu, the two Utah tackles who were amazing. Caden Proctor was a guy who has the size. He just didn't really like he flashed the talent that he can be, but he just didn't show as much as you would have liked. And Proctor, a guy who um 6'7", I think 370. Like he is a big offensive lineman and can be a dominant guy. It's just he didn't really show it, and he's not going to go as high as maybe he most people would have said he would have been. And Mauro Freeling is a guy who preseason probably was like a day 2, day 3 pick, but has risen up the boards and has really been amazing. And he's another guy like Proctor, who's I think 6'7". So with that big size, we're gonna see these guys on the final day really get to show out. And I feel like if these guys have good combines, they could really rise their draft stock and be a lot um higher than people have been mocking them. Moving on to the guards Viveka Uwane is the clear top guy really since um you know college football season was over with. Today you had some other guys who were playing in the playoffs, but he was the top guy. It felt like for a while, and um, what's them call it? Um, and will probably be a maybe top 14 because you can probably start at the Ravens, selecting them at 14, and then going down. But Chase Pasantis, and Emmanuel Pregnon both could end up being first round players. I think, some people early on, Pregnon was a big time first round pick, but then his stock kind of went down, and he hasn't been that great, but he could be a first rounder. Pasantis could. The other A&M guard, Armaz Reed Adams. I think that's how you say it. Um, but just another talented guy. And then Keelan Rutledge. I should say Keelan Rutledge from Georgia Tech. Um, could be another guy who, day two guard. If the team really needs one, he's going to go higher. And you're seeing guards, start to get paid more and more. Now that it's become a more primary position, so we could see maybe more guys go in the first round. We could see these guys go a lot higher and really continue to rise up because of what we've seen teams paying these guards that are really talented. Moving on to the centers, um, Connor Liu, who from Auburn, who seems to be the top guy. I remember Jake Slaughter, preseason was a lot of people's um, top um, um, maybe interior offensive lineman because of just how talented Florida was supposed to be. He'll still be really good. Same with the rest of these guys who I don't know much about. I haven't really gone into the tape about these centers, but we will see these guys at the combine. I'm pretty sure we should. If you're ranked in the top five at your position, you're more than likely getting an invite, and we'll be able to see these guys. And center is a valuable position. We've seen guys like Tyler Linderbaum go in the first round. Obviously, Jason Kelsey was dominant for a while, so these guys are going to be highly coveted on day two and day three, and could be some of the best value picks because of how important interior offensive line is in the NFL. Moving on to the defense with the defensive tackles, and it's a very interesting D tackle class because you got three guys and Peter Woods, Caleb Banks, and Caden McDonald, who all um probably preseason, at least Banks and Woods preseason were probably considered like elite prospects. Woods didn't have that great of a year, but has the talent. Like he has the talent to be one of the best defensive tackles in the league. He just didn't have that great of a year the way most Clemson players did. Caleb Banks was just banged up and only played in 3 games. So both guys could be top 15 picks when it's all said and done because of just how talented these guys are. Kenny McDonald, um, you know, yeah, at one point was probably D tackle one, maybe ahead of Peter Woods because of just how great Ohio State was. Kind of like a lot of Ohio State players started to go down later into the season. But still really good. Lee Hunter is a guy who rose his stock at the Senior Bowl, just like Caleb Banks. Both guys could definitely be first round picks. They get Christian Miller from Georgia, just another Georgia defensive tackle who once he gets to the NFL will be an amazing player. But a D tackle class that is very interesting because preseason, it probably would have been thought that you'd see multiple guys in the top half of the first round. That might not be the case, but it might end up being if these guys are great at the combine, great in their pro days, and continue to go up in stock. Went on to the edge rushers with Ruben Bain. He's my number one guy. I have Reese considered a linebacker. An edge rusher. Bucky Brooks seems like he's going to have him as a linebacker. But yeah, I have Bain over Bailey. I think a lot of people think Bailey over Bain because of how quick he is, how great he was this year. Like Bane had some great games, but he wasn't consistent. Bailey was consistent throughout the year, but Bane's younger. He has more, untapped potential. But both guys will be top probably 5 picks, maybe or top 10 picks at least. Akeem Mesidor, who's a guy who Bane's teammate, was amazing in the playoff run for Miami to the national championship, but he's gonna be, I think, 25 as a rookie, which is crazy to say for a guy to maybe be a first round pick that he'd be 25. I know we saw, Penix and Nix and Daniels, but one that's quarterback, um, and two, well, one that's quarterback. We see QBs play a lot longer in recent years, but Mesidor is going to be 25, I think, as a rookie, which is very old for a quarterback very old for a player starting the season. Like, if he were to be a first round pick, by the end of his first contract, he'd be like close to 30, which is not something you want to say, but it is crazy. Keldon Falk and Cassius Howell, two interesting prospects. Falk, I'm pretty sure the first Auburn first round pick, and more than likely first round pick since Derek Brown. Um, and Falk's an amazing talent. I mean, he could go, top 15 maybe. Same with Howell. Him and Bain have kind of been questioned because of their shorter arm lengths. But I feel like, you know, it shouldn't matter about those measurables. If the guy can play, if the guy is amazing, um, I feel like yes, the arm length, might be a huge concern when they go up against some of the elite tackles, but I feel like if they play well at the or show out at the combine and are able to prove that they can be great players in the NFL, even with their arm length, I feel like they should go a lot higher than people are saying. But it's interesting to see Mesidor, you know, who's going to be 25, who's going to, be an older rookie. And I feel like that might also hurt his draft stock because I feel like teams might say, hey, we'd rather go with this guy who has more potential. Although you could see a team that like wants to win now draft him, which, could be a team in the first round, could end up being a team on day two. Moving on to the linebackers, which there is Reese. I have him as an edge rusher just because I think he'll eventually take that Michael Parsons type move over to the edge, which is why I would have his teammate Sonny Styles as the top linebacker. But both incredible prospects. Both guys will be at least top 15 picks when it's all said and done. And a linebacker class that preseason was supposed to be really good is living up to the hype because if you consider Reese a linebacker, that's one going in the first round. Styles is going to be two. C.J. Allen, the next great Georgia linebacker should be um going in the first round. Anthony Hill is an interesting one. He was, considered to be the best linebacker um prospect preseason. Didn't have that great of a season, but still was tremendously impressive. And if he, because there's a lot of guys who can rise their stock at the combine if they are impressive and could really boost their stock to being a first round pick, but then you could also hurt your stock at the combine. And then Jack Golday, who I don't know much from Cincinnati, but showed out at the Senior Bowl and, you know, like I was saying, a great linebacker class, which you don't see many of those where, because like, positions like linebacker, safety, running back usually aren't at value that great, but when you have plenty of good to great players at that position in a class, they really get bumped up. And you see a lot more of these guys going because of just how talented the group is. To the cornerbacks with, yeah, I agree with McCoy being ahead of Delane. Like, the only thing Delane has on McCoy is playing in 2025, but outside of that, McCoy is the better player. Like he has like Delane has short arms, and which could end up hurting him. But McCoy, like he has the better talent, the better size, and like I said, Delane only has the fact that he played in 2025. McCoy didn't, but apparently he was healthy. Tennessee just didn't want to play him for the benefit of his long-term NFL journey. So that, which is interesting. I think Tennessee would want him to play, but maybe they were like, "Hey, we're good with Colin Hood. We don't need you." But yeah, the true junior who, if he had played in 2025, would be a top five pick. Would be going, a lot higher than people have had him. It's just this big time injury, but he's going to be at the combine, so we're going to see uh, his measurement rules, and we're going to see him, work out in those drills. And if he's, amazing, he could catastrophically jump up into the top 10, top five, maybe. Um, Went on to his teammate, Colt Hood, um, who really showed out at Tennessee. With McCoy being injured, he kind of benefited from McCoy not being there, and is a really talented guy who, when it's all said and done, probably should be a first round pick because of just how great he is. And this is a really good corner class because there's a lot of guys outside of this top five who could be amazing. Um, that just aren't going to go that high or aren't viewed that highly. But a great corner class, Avion Terrell, the younger brother of AJ Terrell, um, who you know is smaller in size compared to his brother. He's 5'11", I think 180, 5'10" maybe, but he plays like he's 6'2", 200 and 20. Like he plays like he is bigger than he actually is, and you know, while teams might look at him and say, "Oh, he's a slot guy," he is much more than a slot corner, and he could really live on the boundary as an elite guy. And then Brandon Cisse from South Carolina, who had an amazing season on a rather disappointing South Carolina team. Cisse was one of the bright spots on that team, and they're getting a lot of first round love because of talented he is, his size and skill being combined, and it could really help him out. Then the safety prospects. I mean, Caleb Downs is in a tier of his own, kind of like Jeremiah Love, Kenyon Sadiq. Downs is ahead of everybody else. Like it's Downs, and then there's everybody else. That's how big the gap is between him and. I mean, since he took a step on campus back in 2023 for Alabama, he was the best player there. Like he was a true dominant player. He's not generational because like a generational safety would be I don't even know who. Downs is not a generational guy, but he is an elite prospect. Ever since he's stepped foot on college campus, he has been amazing and is one of those guys who like preseason is getting mocked to be a first round guy and ends up going. There's plenty of guys who like get mocked there and then have disappointing seasons. He was not one of them. But let's talk about the rest of the safety class because here's two guys and Neil Warren and Dylan Thiedemann who Bucky has at 3 and 4 behind Kyle Lewis, which is interesting. But these two guys, well, Thiedemann was the Purdue transfer who a lot of people thought could maybe give Downs a running to be the safety one. Didn't work out, but both guys still could end up being first round picks because of how talented they are, their size, and if they shot in the combine, they can raise the draft stock and really emerge as that safety too. Kyle Lewis from Pitt had an amazing, him and Bud Clark had amazing Senior Bowls and really lifted their stock up. And both guys will be fun to watch at the combine to see what they do. And yeah, that'll do it for today's video. Hope you guys like it. Hope you guys subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I'll see you guys in my next video. But until then, hope you guys have a great day and bye.